You've been searching. Quietly, secretly, maybe even desperately. Not for money alone, not for pleasure alone, not for recognition alone. Deep down, you've been searching for yourself. But what you've discovered is that the world has been feeding you illusions, temporary highs, shallow relationships, empty victories. And in the silence of the night, when it's just you and your thoughts, you feel it, the aching question, is this really all there is? This is where your regal journey begins. A journey into spirituality, into self-mastery, into the untapped power of your body, your mind, and your soul. This is not about rules, dogma, or tradition. It is about transformation, the kind that reshapes you from the inside out. You are about to see how the path of semen retention, celibacy, and higher consciousness all weave together, not as separate ideas, but as one living force moving through you. If you've ever felt trapped in cycles of lust, distraction, or self-doubt, what you're about to hear will not only break those chains, it will reveal to you a strength you didn't know you had. Stay with me. Because the person you are right now will not be the person who finishes this video. You sense it, don't you? That quiet voice inside you that whispers, there must be more than this. You've lived long enough to realize that comfort doesn't satisfy, that pleasure is fleeting, and that no amount of distraction can silence the deeper hunger gnawing within you. That hunger is not for entertainment. It's not for validation. It is for transformation. The awakening begins when you stop running from yourself. You notice how much time you've wasted, scrolling, chasing, consuming. And yet, for all the stimulation, you feel empty. Your body is alive, but your soul is starving. And so, you step back. You look in the mirror, not at your face, but at your life. And what you see is sobering. You are not who you could be. Your potential is buried beneath habits, fears, and impulses. But this realization, painful as it is a gift. Because until you see the truth, you cannot change. The awakening is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering the man you were meant to be. Beneath the layers of weakness and distraction, there is a deeper self, disciplined, powerful, purposeful. And he has been waiting for you. But here's the first lesson: awakening is not comfortable. It feels like dying. Why? Because the old self must collapse before the higher self can rise. The ego fights to hold on, whispering lies. You don't need discipline. One more indulgence won't matter. You can always change tomorrow. And yet, tomorrow never comes. You begin to notice how your body reflects your choices. The late nights, the constant release of energy, the lack of direction, they all show. You look at your posture, your eyes, your skin, your energy, and you realize, the outer man is only the echo of the inner man. To change one, you must change the other. So you start small. You wake earlier. You move your body. You practice saying no to impulses. And in those little moments, something shifts. You realize discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. Every time you deny weakness, you strengthen your spirit. Every time you resist comfort, you sharpen your will. This is the foundation of the path, self-improvement. But understand this clearly, it is not about vanity. It is not about six-pack abs or chasing wealth just to impress others. No. The deeper meaning of self-improvement is preparation. You are building the vessel that will hold the fire. Because the energy you are about to awaken is not small. It is volcanic. And if you are weak, it will consume you. But if you are strong, it will elevate you to realms you cannot yet imagine. That is why the awakening begins with awareness, discipline, and responsibility. You stop blaming others. You stop waiting for luck. You take your life in your own hands. Because if you cannot master yourself in small things, you will never master yourself in great things. And yet, as you take these first steps, you begin to feel the deeper war. You begin to realize that self-improvement is only the surface. Beneath it lies something more dangerous, more primal, the battle with desire. The force that rules most men. The energy that creates life but, when misused, destroys lives. This is where the path turns darker. This is where you face your own nature. This is where you learn that the true awakening is not about lifting weights or waking up early. It is about mastering the fire within. And that fire is sexual energy. The moment you awaken, you feel the resistance. It's not out there, it's inside you. Every habit, every craving, every whisper of comfort rises like an enemy determined to keep you asleep. This is the battle within. You wake up early one morning, determined to change. But the voice of the old self speaks. Sleep a little longer. You deserve rest. You plan to train your body, but the voice returns. You're too tired. Do it tomorrow. You commit to discipline, and the ego whispers, why suffer? Life is short. Enjoy it while you can. This is the enemy you must learn to face. Not other people, not society, not even circumstances. The true enemy is within you, the part of you that fears discipline, fears sacrifice, and fears transformation. The ego does not want to die. And so the battle begins. Discipline versus desire. Vision versus distraction. The higher self versus the animal self. At first, the war feels overwhelming. You try to resist temptation, but the cravings are strong. You try to focus, but your mind wanders. You try to hold yourself accountable, but excuses slip in. And in these moments, you feel weak. You wonder if you're even capable of change. But hear this truth: no man is born disciplined. Discipline is forged in fire. Every struggle you face is not proof of your weakness, it is the weight that builds your strength. Just as the muscle grows under pressure, your spirit grows under resistance. When you hold the line for one more second, you win. When you resist one more urge, you grow. When you say no to one more temptation, you sharpen your sword. And yet, this battle is not only about habits. It goes deeper. It is about identity. Because the man you have been does not want to let go. He clings to comfort, to pleasure, to distraction. He whispers, "This is who you are. This is how you've always been. You cannot change." But that is the lie. You are not your cravings. You are not your impulses. You are not your past. You are the one who chooses. You are the awareness that sees the desire rise and decides whether to act or not. And the more you choose discipline, the more you silence the old self. The more you silence him, the more the higher self begins to awaken. But let us be clear, this war is not won overnight. It is not won in a week or a month. It is fought daily, in silence, in the shadows, when no one is watching. That is why so few men ascend, because they surrender to the easier path. And yet, for those who endure, a new strength emerges. A clarity begins to rise. You start to realize something profound. The greatest drain of your strength, the greatest weapon of the enemy within, is not laziness, not distraction, it is uncontrolled desire. The endless cycle of release. The wasting of your most sacred energy. The cheap pleasure that weakens the body, clouds the mind, and chains the spirit. You begin to see it clearly now. The battle within is not only against comfort, it is against lust. Because until you master this fire, you will never master yourself. And so, the path leads you to the next initiation. The battlefield of desire. The discipline of semen retention. The alchemy of transforming raw lust into spiritual power. This is where the journey deepens. This is where most men fall. But this is where you rise. Desire. It is the force that has shaped empires, toppled kings, written poems, and destroyed souls. It is the current of life itself, the raw flame that creates a child, a legacy, a civilization. And yet, for most men, desire is a master, not a servant. You feel it within you, the pull, the hunger, the ache that never seems to rest. You have tried to satisfy it, again and again, and yet each indulgence leaves you emptier than before. The brief pleasure fades, and what remains is fatigue, shame, weakness. But what if you have misunderstood desire? What if this fire was never meant to be wasted in fleeting moments of release? What if it was meant to be transmuted, transformed into something higher? This is the secret of semen retention. It is not simply the act of holding back. It is the art of redirecting the most potent energy you possess. Think about it. That single drop of life force within you contains the blueprint of creation itself. It is the essence that could bring forth another human soul. If that is the power hidden within you, do you truly believe it was meant to be thrown away without thought? When you begin retention, something changes. The energy that once drained you begins to fill you. Your body feels stronger. Your mind becomes sharper. Your eyes regain their fire. And your spirit starts to awaken. But retention is not only about physical benefits. It is spiritual alchemy. Because when you stop releasing, you stop leaking the very fuel of transformation. Your hunger, once scattered on empty pleasure, begins to channel into creation, into discipline, into vision. Suddenly, you have the drive to train harder, the focus to build, the clarity to think deeply. Ideas flow. Confidence rises. Presence radiates from you. And others can feel it, even if they cannot explain it. But here's the warning, this path is not easy. Retention will awaken your demons. The urges will grow stronger before they weaken. Your mind will try to trick you, to rationalize, to seduce you back into weakness. The ego will whisper, just once more. It doesn't matter. You've been strong enough. This is the true test. Retention is not about denying your nature, it is about mastering it. It is not suppression, it is transmutation. You take the raw animal energy and forge it into spiritual fire. And the longer you walk this path, the more you begin to notice, desire itself changes. What once craved cheap pleasure now hungers for purpose. What once sought escape now seeks mastery. What once dragged you downward now lifts you upward. This is why the ancients spoke of chastity, of purity, of inner fire. They understood that the same energy that binds men in chains can also set them free. But semen retention, powerful as it is only the doorway. Beyond it lies a higher vow, a vow not just to retain, but to renounce. To walk the razor's edge of celibacy. To sacrifice the pleasure of the body for the awakening of the spirit. Few men take that step. Fewer still endure it. But those who do find themselves purified, sharpened, transformed into vessels of clarity and power. And so, the path leads you to the next initiation. The fire of celibacy. The vow that strips you bare, that burns away weakness, that leaves nothing but the essence of who you are. Are you ready to walk into the fire? There comes a point on the path when retention is no longer enough. You have tasted its power, you have felt your body grow stronger, your mind clearer, your will more unshakable. And yet you sense something deeper. A call. A whisper. A fire that says, do not just contain this energy, consecrate it. This is the vow of celibacy. Celibacy is not about hating the body or rejecting desire. It is about sacrifice. It is about choosing a higher fire over the lower one. It is the deliberate act of saying, I will not live as a slave to pleasure. I will burn away everything that weakens my spirit. And when you make this vow, the world begins to shift. Suddenly you are stripped of illusions. Every cheap escape is gone. There is no release, no distraction, no indulgence to hide behind. You are left face to face with yourself. And that is terrifying. Because now you must confront what you used to run from. The emptiness. The loneliness. The ache. The hunger. The shadows of your own soul rise to meet you. But this is the purpose of celibacy. It is the fire that burns away the false self. Without distraction, without release, without indulgence, you are forced to meet your demons head on. You see your cravings for what they truly are, not needs, but chains. You see your attachments for what they are, illusions. You see your ego for what it is, fragile, fearful, desperate for comfort. And in that fire, something is purified. Your mind begins to sharpen. Your emotions begin to stabilize. Your body begins to radiate a stillness it never had before. And your spirit begins to glow. Celibacy is not weakness. It is not repression. It is war. War against the lower nature. War against the ego. War against everything within you that wants you small, distracted, and enslaved. But through this war, you discover a deeper truth. You realize that celibacy is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the gathering of all your scattered energy into one blazing fire. It is the reclaiming of your sovereignty. It is the embodiment of power without leakage, purpose without compromise, presence without distraction. And here lies the paradox. The more you renounce, the more you gain. The more you give up, the more you are given. By denying the body, you awaken the soul. By restraining your desire, you discover a higher desire, the longing for truth, for purpose, for God. Celibacy is the crucible in which the lower man dies and the higher man is born. It is not for the faint of heart. It will strip you, test you, break you. But if you endure, you emerge with a fire in your eyes that cannot be extinguished. And yet, celibacy is still not the end. It is the bridge. The preparation. Because beyond the vow, beyond the fire, beyond the renunciation, lies the true ascent. The voice of the higher self begins to call louder. The silence you once feared becomes your teacher. The shadows you once avoided reveal their wisdom. And you begin to see that all along, the journey was leading you here, to the awakening of the higher self. There is a silence within you that you have always avoided. At first, it felt unbearable. When you stopped distracting yourself, when you stopped numbing yourself with pleasure, you discovered that silence is not empty. It is filled with voices, the echoes of your fears, your regrets, your longings. But if you endure, if you sit long enough in that silence, something else begins to emerge. A deeper voice. A voice that is not anxious, not restless, not afraid. A voice that feels timeless, eternal. This is the voice of your higher self. The higher self is not something outside of you. It is the you that has always been there, hidden beneath layers of noise. It is the you untouched by addiction, untouched by fear, untouched by the ego's illusions. And yet, to hear it, you must quiet everything else. That is why self-improvement was the foundation, so you could discipline the body. That is why retention was the practice, so you could master desire. That is why celibacy was the fire, so you could purify the soul. And now, in the stillness that remains, the higher self speaks. It does not speak in words but in knowing, in intuition, in flashes of clarity that pierce through the fog. Suddenly, you see your life differently. You realize how much time you've wasted, how much energy you've given away, how many chains you've willingly worn. But you also realize something else: none of it was meaningless. Every struggle, every temptation, every battle was leading you here. The higher self has been guiding you all along, through pain, through failure, through silence. And now, you stand at the edge of a revelation, that the very desires you feared, the very shadows you ran from, are not enemies but teachers. Your lust, your cravings, your wounds, when faced, when integrated, become fuel for transformation. This is shadow work. The higher self does not ask you to kill your shadows. It asks you to see them, to embrace them. To understand that your darkness is not your destruction, it is your doorway. Because only when you face your lust do you understand your power. Only when you face your fear do you awaken your courage. Only when you face your emptiness do you discover your fullness. This is the paradox of the spiritual path. The very things you thought were holding you back are the very things designed to awaken you. And so, you begin to walk differently. You stop seeing life as random. You stop seeing struggles as punishments. You begin to see everything as initiation. Every temptation is a test. Every setback is instruction. Every silence is guidance. The higher self calls you not to escape the world, but to walk through it differently. To live as a man who is not ruled by instinct, but guided by spirit. To act not out of fear, but out of alignment. To embody the truth that has been whispering to you all along: you are more than your body, more than your mind, more than your desires. You are the awareness behind it all. And when you taste this truth, even for a moment, you are never the same. You cannot go back to the old life. You cannot unhear the call. You cannot unknow the path. But this is not the end. This is only the beginning of true mastery. Because the higher self does not just call you to listen, it calls you to live, to embody, to become the union of discipline, energy, sacrifice, and spirit. The path now leads to its final stage. The stage of union. The moment when the old self dies, the higher self reigns, and you become who you were always meant to be. You've walked through shadows and fire. You've tasted silence and wrestled with desire. You've stripped yourself of illusions, one by one, until you began to glimpse something greater than the restless self that once ran your life. Now, in this final chapter, you are being called to return, not to the world as you once knew it, but to the world as it truly is. This is where everything converges: spirituality, self-improvement, semen retention, celibacy, and the higher self. Not as scattered practices, not as burdens to carry, but as one living current flowing through you. You see now that semen retention was never about repression. It was about power, harnessing the raw force of your existence, the sacred energy that can create life itself. When you withhold it from being mindlessly wasted, it refines you. It sharpens your focus, deepens your presence, and makes you a vessel strong enough to hold the light of the higher self. Celibacy, too, was never meant to punish you. It was a gate. A test of whether you could rise above the pull of the flesh, not by rejecting your humanity, but by mastering it. Celibacy was training your soul to hear whispers that lust drowns out, to see visions that the fog of indulgence blinds you to. And self-improvement? That was the shaping of your vessel. Discipline, habits, routines, they were not merely about success in the material world. They were chiseling away at the stones so the inner temple could emerge. Without this foundation, the spiritual current would collapse you. With it, you are unshakable. Spirituality was never an escape. It was a mirror. It forced you to see the truth you spent years hiding from, that your life was not small, that your energy was not meaningless, and that your suffering was not wasted. Every prayer, every meditation, every night of loneliness, They brought you closer to the silent core of who you are. And the higher self, the one you sought from the beginning, was not waiting in the clouds or in some distant paradise. It was always here. Quiet. Patient. Hidden beneath noise, lust, fear, and distraction. Every sacrifice you made, every discipline you upheld, every night you endured in solitude, it was all peeling back the layers until this truth stood before you. You are not just flesh. You are fire. You are not just desire. You are the keeper of desire. You are not just a seeker. You are the one who was sought all along. Now you return to the world, but not as you were. The world hasn't changed, but you have. You walk among men, but something about you is untouchable. You speak with calm power, your presence carries weight, and your silence commands more than your words ever could. People feel it. They can't explain it, but they know you've touched something they can't see. This is the fruit of your journey. To live in the world but not be owned by it. To use your energy, not be drained by it. To be in your body, yet led by your soul. To walk as a human being, but radiate as something more. The path does not end here. It never ends. But you have crossed the threshold. You have awakened the higher self, not as a fleeting experience, but as a living presence guiding your steps. And now you carry the secret. That the fire of lust can become light. That solitude can become strength. That discipline can become freedom. That the higher self can be found not in escape, but in mastery. This is your return. This is your rebirth. This is your true beginning. And now you stand here, different from the one who began this journey. You started with questions, maybe even with doubts, but you now carry a deeper fire. You see that semen retention is not just discipline, celibacy is not just sacrifice, and spirituality is not just belief. They are one current, an energy that, once mastered, turns you into a vessel of power, clarity, and divine purpose. Understand this, you were never meant to live small, trapped in cycles of weakness. You were meant to rise, to burn, to awaken. Every moment of restraint has carved strength into your soul. Every silence has whispered wisdom into your mind. And every desire you transmuted has become a step toward your higher self. The world may never fully understand what you are doing. They will mock, they will tempt, they will misunderstand. But you are not living for their approval, you are living for the eternal voice within. So carry this truth with you, you are no longer a seeker. You are becoming the master of your own being. The fire of your body, the silence of your spirit, and the vision of your soul now align. And when they do, nothing, no temptation, no fear, no doubt, can break you. The journey has only begun. But you, right now, are already awakening.